One copper mine in Chile will secure drinking water for 1 million people by 2030. But here's the twist: they're doing it by completely stopping all water use. This isn't a feel-good corporate PR story. This is a blueprint for how the entire mining industry could operate within planetary boundaries while actually helping communities instead of competing with them. And it's happening right now, in one of the most water-stressed regions on Earth. Let me take you to Santiago, Chile. 6 million people live here, and they're running out of water. Fast. The region is experiencing the longest megadrought in a millennium. Not a century, a millennium. And it's not just climate change. Groundwater extraction has exploded 17.8-fold since 1970. The water table has dropped 50 meters in just a decade. Think about that. 50 meters. That's a 15-story building disappearing underground. Right now, almost 500,000 Chileans depend on water trucks. They deliver maybe 15 to 20 liters of water per person, enough for 1 or 2 days. That's less water than the average American uses flushing their toilet. Chile's Supreme Court says the minimum is 100 liters per day. These families are getting a fifth of that. And in the middle of this crisis sits Los Bronces, a massive copper mine that holds 2% of global copper reserves. It's 65 kilometers northeast of Santiago, drawing from the exact same rivers that supply 80% of the city's drinking water. The mine needs water to operate. The communities need water to survive. There's not enough for both. In 2023, water scarcity forced Los Bronces to reduce production by 44%. Not because of copper prices, not because of labor issues, because there simply wasn't enough water. This is the collision point where industrial extraction meets human survival. And traditionally, communities lose this fight. But Los Bronces isn't following the traditional playbook. In a move that shocked the mining industry, Anglo American, the company that owns Los Bronces, made a commitment: eliminate all freshwater withdrawals by 2030. Not reduce, not offset, eliminate. Between 14.7 and 43.2 million liters of freshwater every single day would be freed for communities and ecosystems. Here's how they're doing it. Phase 1 launched in 2025. They built a massive desalination plant on the coast at Puchuncaví that produces 500 liters per second of clean water. That's 43.2 million liters every day. But the coast is at sea level, and the mine sits at 3,300 meters elevation. So they built a 100-kilometer pipeline. That's 62 miles, pumping seawater uphill through the Andes Mountains. The investment? $1.65 billion. That 43 million liters of freed-up freshwater. That's immediate drinking water for 40,000 people. That's 40,000 families who can stop depending on water trucks, who can take showers without rationing, who can wash their clothes, water a garden, live with dignity. 20,000 people along the pipeline route also gained access as the infrastructure was built. Anglo American essentially built water security as a side effect of securing their mining operations. But Phase 1 was just the beginning. Phase 2, pending regulatory approval, is where this gets revolutionary. Here's the concept. Anglo American provides 500 liters per second of desalinated water to Santiago for human consumption. In exchange, they receive the city's treated wastewater for mining, a swap. The mine becomes a water provider instead of a water competitor. If approved, this single arrangement would secure drinking water for 1 million people before 2030. That's roughly 5% of Chile's entire population gaining water security from one industrial transaction. Now, you might be thinking, desalination is expensive, energy-intensive, and environmentally questionable. And you'd be right to think that. Desalination costs $1 to $4 per cubic meter delivered to the mine. That's expensive. It requires massive amounts of energy. It creates brine waste that needs disposal. But here's the thing, the alternative has become more expensive. When your mine loses 44% of production because you can't get water, when water costs reach $5 per cubic meter because you're competing with desperate communities, when your social license to operate is collapsing because mothers are rationing water for their children, suddenly, paying a premium for desalination becomes the cheaper option, and the costs are dropping. Desalination used to cost 20 to 30 kilowatt hours per cubic meter in the 1970s. Modern reverse osmosis uses 3 to 5 kilowatt hours. That's an 85% reduction. Energy represents 50% of total costs, which means renewable integration, which Chile has in abundance from solar in the Atacama Desert, makes this increasingly viable. Los Bronces already recycles 90 to 94% of their process water. They're operating near the theoretical maximum for recycling. Desalination is the only way to eliminate freshwater use entirely for a coastal accessible mine. And they're not alone. BHP's Escondida mine eliminated groundwater use entirely through 100% seawater desalination powered by renewables. Codelco, Chile's state-owned mining company, committed to a 60% reduction in inland water consumption by 2030. Antofagasta Minerals is targeting 66% desalination use. Chile is investing $17 billion with a B, in mining desalination infrastructure through 2030. The entire sector is transforming. Because here's the reality. 16% of critical mineral mines globally already operate in high or extremely high water stress areas. That number is projected to reach 20% by 2050. As clean energy transitions drive demand for copper, lithium, and rare earths, mining is expanding in precisely the driest regions on Earth. The Los Bronces model isn't just nice, it's becoming necessary. So what actually happens when a mine stops using fresh water? The Maipo and Aconcagua river basins, the watersheds serving Santiago, get back between 14.7 and 43.2 million liters daily. That's 5.4 to 15.8 million cubic meters annually. Scientific consensus says 37% of renewable freshwater should be reserved for ecosystems. When mining and other users exceed that threshold, rivers dry completely. And that's already happening in 25% of global river basins. Los Bronces freeing this water moves the basin incrementally back toward hydrological balance. It's not a complete solution. Groundwater recovery takes 50 years under best-case scenarios, but it reverses the direction. The World Health Organization calculates that 1.4 million deaths globally are preventable through improved water access. For the 40,000 people Los Bronces serves directly, applying WHO prevention rates suggest approximately 14 to 28 deaths averted yearly, 740 to 1,480 disability-adjusted life years prevented, diarrheal disease dropping by 34%. Water interventions return $8 in economic gains for every dollar invested. These aren't abstract statistics. These are children not dying from preventable waterborne diseases. Can this model work elsewhere? The answer is, it depends, specifically on coastal proximity. Desalination becomes economically viable within about 200 kilometers of ocean. Beyond that distance, pumping costs escalate too steeply. Los Bronces is in the sweet spot. Ideal conditions exist along Chile's coast, Peru's coast, and coastal Australia. Arid climates with mining concentrations in water-stressed areas where high-value deposits justify the capital investment. Inland operations need different approaches. South Africa's platinum mines increased water recycling from 30 to 60% over a decade, with leading operations hitting 85 to 90% reuse. That can't eliminate freshwater entirely, but it dramatically reduces demand. 3 critical gaps remain. First, regulatory barriers. Chile's permitting processes extend up to 6 years for major water infrastructure. That's 6 years of continued freshwater depletion while projects sit in approval limbo. Second, energy costs. 50% of desalination expenses are energy. Renewable integration is essential for this to scale economically and environmentally. Third, social license. Communities are understandably skeptical. Chile's water was 90% privatized under the 1981 Water Code. Decades of extraction created trust deficits that can't be solved with one infrastructure project. Anglo-Americans' approach of dedicating 25% of desalinated water directly to communities represents emerging best practice, but it's still a work in progress. Los Bronces proves something critical. Mining within planetary boundaries while meeting human needs isn't just possible. Underwater scarcity conditions, it's becoming economically rational. This is what regenerative mining looks like. Not mining that's less bad, but mining that actively, what industrial extraction has historically taken. One mine, $1 billion infrastructure investment, 1 million people with water security by 2030. If 16% of the world's critical mineral mines followed this model, we'd be looking at tens of millions of people gaining water access while ecosystems begin recovering. The question isn't whether this happened. Los Bronces is already doing it. The question is, how fast can the rest of the industry catch up? Because the megadrought isn't ending. Climate models project a 40% water reduction by 2070. The choice is simple: transform or collapse. Los Bronces chose transformation.